Cozy season is ahead, and you'll be spending way more time inside. Is your home ready? Don't worry. With Wayfair, you can upgrade your space without breaking the bank. Score up to 70% off during their Labor Day clearance on furniture, area rugs, mattresses, and more. Plus, surprise flash deals you can't miss. Whether it's one room or the whole house, Wayfair has pieces for every style and budget.
Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month, even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan, Capitol Bureau Chief and host of Under the Dome. Today's episode is sponsored by Duke Energy. I'm joined today by democracy reporter Kyle Ingram and legislative and lobbying reporter Esther Frances. Today we've got a breakdown of all the elections hubbub from the 12-hour Board of Elections meeting that Kyle covered, as well as what's going on with the price of liquor and the ABC warehouse. Kyle, let's start with that marathon State Board of Elections meeting. Why was it so long?
So what happens in North Carolina every time we have an election is that the first step is for county boards of elections to try and come up with an early voting plan and see if they can reach a unanimous agreement on that. They're determining where they're going to hold voting sites at and for how many hours and for what days they're going to do it on. There's certain statutory guidelines, but they do have a lot of flexibility in how they do these things. And what happened this year was that 20 counties couldn't reach an agreement on their own unanimously. They split, usually over things like whether or not to have Sunday voting, whether or not to have polling sites on college campuses. And so when that happens, the disagreements get kicked up to the State Board of Elections, which has to issue final decisions in every case. And so it took them 12 hours to get through all 20 counties last week and determine what they were going to do and how they were going to resolve those disagreements. And most of the times it was a party line vote of the Republican majority on the state board.
So what are some of the counties that were there?
Well,
all over the state?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty representative sample throughout the state. Some of the big ticket ones where we had Guilford County, where there's been a big debate over whether or not to have polling sites on UNCG's campus and NCA&T's campus. They did not have polling sites in the last midterm, but students from there have been pushing really a lot to have these sites. They say that, the ones that are available to college students are just not very accessible for those who don't have cars. And they think that, the state should be doing everything it can to encourage students to start voting early. The State Board of Elections decided not to approve those polling sites, UNCG or NCA&T. That was, again, a party line vote. The Republican majority on the State Board of Elections said that they thought that students had enough access as it was to be able to get to the polls.
So why is this why is there a party line on early voting sites on college campuses? Just if you can explain to listeners why Democrats and Republicans see this differently.
I think, I don't know, there's a cynical answer, which is that Democrats, I think, see young people as perhaps being more likely to go for their party in the elections, and Republicans see the opposite and wouldn't want them to be going. But I also just think, they have a lot of times concerns about parking comes up so often with college campuses, and they think, well, college students live on these campuses. It's easy for them to walk to the student center or wherever the polling site is. But for people in the surrounding communities, it may be harder to get into a campus, and the merits of that argument can be debated campus by campus. But I think while these two sites have gotten a lot of attention, and even a lawsuit back in the primary, the students sued over not having sites on their campuses. On a state level, there are still a wide variety of college campus voting sites that'll be used in the November midterms, but it's just interesting to see where the fault lines come in the counties.
Are there any rules and I don't know if about how close or far early voting locations are? Did that come up at all with what you've seen where they're we need this many because of, if you're talking about where you have to drive and park, where somebody could go somewhere else to early vote?
Not really. So the law states that you have to have at least one site, and the minimum would be that you have a site at your county board of elections office. But if you don't want to use the board of elections office for whatever reason, the rules are that you should pick an in lieu of site that is within 5 miles of the board of elections office. But I believe even that rule was stretched a bit, and I can't recall exactly which county, but there's a lot of flexibility with these things.
So what else? There was a little bit of drama, some, exchanges between board members. You can read Kyle's story at newsobserver.com, and our photographer, Robert Willett, got some really great photos that are, scattered throughout with where you have what the board members said to each other.
It was a very tense meeting. And we're coming off a summer of a series of controversies involving the State Board of Elections, especially with Dallas Woodhouse. He was serving as the State Auditor's Office's elections liaison. This was a newly created position that came into effect when Auditor Dave Bullock got control of appointments to election boards. For almost all of North Carolina history, that power has resided with the governor, but the Republican legislature shifted that to the auditor, which made all of the election boards gain Republican majorities. He hired Dallas Woodhouse as his liaison with the elections board. Woodhouse had previously led the state Republican Party for several years. And throughout the summer, we've been reporting on, all of North Carolina outlets have been reporting on these leaked texts that have come out showing Woodhouse encouraging county board members to drop Sunday voting or go against voting on campus polling sites. And this drew a lot of outrage from Democrats and voting rights activists who said that the auditor's office shouldn't be having this sort of influence on election planning. And Woodhouse didn't end up resigning, but his influence was a big topic of discussion and debate during the meeting. It started off with Siobhan Millen, one of the Democrats on the board, trying to call for a resolution that would ban the State Board of Elections from working with the auditor's office on any matters that would privilege one political or racial or ethnic group over another. And that resolution failed. And then you had Democratic member Jeff Carmen calling the board chair, Frances DeLuca, an election denier. And so that really set the tone for this 12-hour meeting. And then we go forward, and there's just a lot of back and forths throughout it. A lot of accusations about people's motivations. There's a lot there.
Okay. So what now? Is everything set and we're good to go for the election, or?
Everything is set. I will be interested to see if there's any lawsuits again. Back in the primary, like I mentioned, the UNCG and A&T students, along with Western Carolina students, sued over the lack of polling places on their campuses. And a judge did rule against them, but it'd be interesting to see if that lawsuit or any other lawsuits come to the fray before voting begins.
So their next meeting, how often does Board of Elections meet?
It's pretty erratic. They don't really have a set meeting schedule, but usually around once a month.
How did it end? Was everybody good meeting and went home?
I wouldn't say it was that congenial. It had been a very, very long day. I think people were just very tired and ready to go home at that point. And the thing is, you have, in these meetings, you have to have people from each of the affected counties come in and explain their disagreements to the board. So you had people coming from way over on the other side of the state. Some of them were there till 8:30 at night as well, waiting for their turn to discuss their plan. So it was a lot.
In the Dobbs building? Is
Yes.
that where it is? Okay. All right. Moving on to our other topic of the day, we'll just get started because we have about a minute before the break. Esther, you've been covering a lot about it's ABC, it's Alcohol Beverage Commission, is that the right?
Yeah, the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission.
Commission. All right, got to control it. Well, speaking of that, right, so there's more on the warehouse and then the price of liquor.
Yeah.
So just let's start talking about this. Why is the price of liquor even something that we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say it was definitely a less contentious meeting than this one, but there was a recent ABC Commission meeting where a study was presented about potentially implementing a government-mandated price floor for some of the truly lowest priced liquors on the shelf. And the ABC Commission has brought it up because for what they say is taking a stab at some public safety, public health help there in terms of alcohol-related deaths and other public health factors.
By making it cost more?
Correct.
I guess. Okay,
Correct.
that's interesting. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to take a break and then want to delve into a little bit about what that is and what Governor Stein had to say about it, and then the latest on this ABC warehouse. We'll be right back.
This message is sponsored by Duke Energy. Duke Energy is a North Carolina-based company dedicated to powering the state's continued growth and supporting economic development across communities. To learn more, go to agree.duke-energy.com. This message is sponsored by Duke Energy.
You're listening to Under the Dome. I'm Capitol Bureau Chief Dawn Vaughan here with Esther Frances and Kyle Ingram. Before the break, we started talking about Esther's ABC coverage and the price of liquor. So maybe that's not going to change. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, for sure. So this study was presented at an ABC Commission meeting. And there was a lot of pushback from several different kinds of stakeholders, including businesses, as well as the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association, which represents businesses and bars and things like that. They are very much concerned that the price increase is going to negatively affect small businesses and bars and restaurants in the area. Governor Stein has said the same thing. He said that the proposal is off the table for now, just trying to think about the affordability sort of environment that we're in right now. The commissioners did at the meeting vote to table the conversation. Chairman Hank Bauer said it was more so about not having enough information in the study about how this could potentially affect bars and restaurants. So Bauer has said that they're going to need a couple months to do this research. Governor Stein has said it is off the table for now. And when we're talking about a price increase, an example in the study that they provided was a 750 milliliter bottle, which is commonly referred to as a fifth, of Dorado Gold Tequila currently sells in ABC stores for $7.45. That's one of the bottles that would be affected. If the price floor were to be implemented, the price would move up to $10.95. So the commission says it would potentially affect 60 regularly listed items out of the ABC's 7,300. They said that 98% of the products would actually remain unaffected.
So who would make the money off of the increased prices?
Yeah, the revenue would go back to, just as it's laid out in law, it would go back to local ABC boards as well as the local law enforcement and different rehabilitation efforts for drug and addiction counseling. This is all laid out in state law about where the commission's revenue goes to.
Okay. And there's some more status news on this ABC warehouse. What's going on with that?
Yeah, definitely. So having the chairman there was helpful to get a little bit more insight too into where this deal stands. Bauer is very adamant that the commission still definitely does need a new warehouse. He said that they're currently only able to fill about 92% of ABC board requests currently with their warehouse. And arguments over how to build the warehouse was something that had stalled up any sort of ABC omnibus bill coming out of session this year. There are disagreements on if the warehouse should be if the commission should use a loan to get the warehouse, which is what Bauer would like. He has said that taxpayers won't need to pay into it, that it will be from, I believe it was like company filings and different things like that would take care of that. And there have been several lawmakers that instead want a public-private option. Both Speaker Hall and Speaker of the House Destin Hall and Senate President Pro Tempore Phil Berger have said that they are not in favor of a public-private option. Speaker Hall has gone so far to say that he's also not in favor of the loan. So there's still lots of disagreements on that, but one thing is for sure that Bauer is still very interested in getting this warehouse built.
But it's going to be a while.
Yes.
That sounds like.
Correct.
Okay. So some more work to do for the 2027 legislative session,
Absolutely.
I guess. All right. So obviously the legislature is out. They do have a gavel in, I think, next week, maybe on the 31st, but they're not going to have any voting sessions unless something changes until after the November election. So coming up this week, there is a government meeting, Rules Review Commission. Kyle, you're covering that. Why is that important?
Yeah, so the State Board of Elections has proposed a new rule which would change how ballots that are cast without an ID are dealt with. So in North Carolina, we have a voter ID requirement, but if you show up to the polls without an ID, you can fill out an exception form saying the reason why you don't have one, you lost it, etc. And the way that it's previously been is that these ballots are accepted unless a county board of elections unanimously agrees that the reasons provided in the form were false. And so that would require a bipartisan agreement. All county board of elections are 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats. But this new rule would change that threshold to a majority vote. So it would be that, the 3 Republicans on a board could vote against the 2 Democrats and throw out a ballot from somebody who didn't provide ID because they think that the reasons provided were false. And that rule has already passed the State Board of Elections, but it has to go before the Rules Review Commission before it's finalized.
Okay.
And that'll be this Thursday.
Okay. Well, you can read Kyle's coverage. All right. Well, moving on to our picks for headliner of the week. I'll go first because I want us all to discuss this. During the break, as we're recording this on Monday, Esther and Kyle told me, which I hadn't seen yet because I was driving downtown, that Senator Bobby I always thought it was Hanig. I've heard people say Hanig. It's been years. I'm still, sorry, Senator, or now soon to be former Senator. Hanig resigned early, and in his letter to Berger said, quote, "Several opportunities have arisen and I must resign so we can enter our speculation time." There is a 6-month cooling off period, I believe, for lobbyists. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And session starts, January, February. So the timing would work if Hanig wants to be a lobbyist. But he's known for a lot of different things. So I'm going to ask each of y'all what you think he's most known for. I'm going to go with his Senate tattoo, which I remember.
And House tattoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess
served in both chambers. He has a tattoo for each.
Okay. So is he going to lobby on behalf of, House and Senate tattoos? Is he going to give tours of the building? Because I don't think anyone else could mirror that. And then, of course, he's also known for, at least among those of us that see lawmakers on a regular basis, his very, very loud blazers and sometimes full suits. The most reserved ones have sequins, I think. There's a really wide variety of Bobby Hanig attire. Usually wears a bow tie. You didn't notice him as much in the House when he was over there because the House can be rowdy sometimes and people have a variety of outfits there. But in the Senate, it was more notable, although maybe he was slightly more muted depending, except for some big issues, which maybe one of y'all is going to talk about. So Esther, what's your Hanig, I don't know, what stands out to you most about his time?
Yeah, I have a feeling that Kyle's going to mention Tripgate, so I am not going to mention Tripgate, even though even someone who was not working here at the time when it happened, that is very prolific. I think everyone hears about that and compares other events to that, like we saw with the hemp bill controversy. But something that always stuck out to me watching Hanig in the Senate was just his ability to chat with anyone, really. Just watching him before session started, you can really see him talking to everyone across the aisle, cracking jokes in that. And I thought that was really unique for a senator and really interesting to see.
He would talk to us whenever I approach him for questions and stuff. Sometimes lawmakers run away and I'm like, it's public service, But he's like, yeah, sure, excited to answer, share his opinion on things.
Definitely.
He's definitely not shy.
Not
I
shy
guess.
at all.
No. All right, Kyle, what do you think about Hannah?
Yeah, he was one of the faces of Shrimpgate, which was, I think it was last year. This bill was going through the legislature that would have basically, I mean, as Shrimper said, destroyed the shrimping industry in North Carolina, banned commercial trawling or whatever. And
It was Representative Keith Kidwell, Hannah's partner in the Freedom Caucus when he was in the House, who coined the phrase Shrimpgate.
yeah. And Hainig, like Kidwell, was very vocally opposed to this bill, and he played a big part in getting it killed. And the shrimpers, that I think we have video of, I believe it was Kidwell coming out into the first floor of the legislature and announcing to all of the shrimpers who were gathered that the bill was dead, and all of them just start cheering, and they're all throughout the building.
I'll add a couple more things about Hannah posing ferry tolls, big thing. We didn't even mention like he represents a district on the coastal counties at the beaches, and also he voted against the rest of his Republican caucus on the state budget over a year ago, I want to say, which is something that, and I think it was over the ferry toll even. He was just hardcore about his district, and generally it's not politically fruitful to go against the leaders of your caucus. And then, of course, he ran for Congress, too, did not win the primary. So it looks like we don't know what his future in politics or outside of politics will be. So he's definitely a headliner of the week. All right, Esther, what is your headliner?
Yes. Astronaut Christina Cook is here at NC State. She'll be doing events all week, and we have some reporters on it. I know higher education reporter Jane Startwell will be on it. And these events are also live streamed if anyone, who's not in the area wanted to take a look, but that'll be pretty exciting, especially for the students there. That is her double alma mater. So very exciting for them.
All right. Kyle, what's your headliner?
I found what was a secret to me, that there was a little snack bar in the State Board of Elections building. I had packed a lunch, but I really did not anticipate that meeting would be 12 hours. I was thinking more like 8. And so I made my way down into the basement and found this little snack bar during one of their few breaks.
So what was there? What was it like?
Well, for listeners familiar with the Sine Dine in the legislative building, it's very similar to that, just a few fridges and then some snacks on the shelves,
like
peanut butter crackers. Yeah, self-serve.
Self-checkout.
Yeah.
Kind of convenience. Okay. Well, I was over, Governor Stein had a presser over at the Albemarle on the same day that you were in your marathon meeting. So I went and worked in the press room at the legislative building. Where there was a little more at the cafeteria. It was lemon chicken soup day. And I got to say, like, the off season at the legislative building, it's all like the MVPs of the building, all the staff that are there all the time. So shout out to the cafeteria workers and the security guards and police that are always there on there. They get a little bit of a reprieve, when it's not huge crowds there. But that's an interesting find, the hidden snack bar. All right, we're out of time. Thank you for listening. For the News and Observer, I'm Dawn Vaughan with Esther Frances, Kyle Ingram, and producer Kevin Keister. Thanks for listening to today's episode of Under the Dome, sponsored by Duke Energy, and we'll talk to you next time.
For more from our politics team, subscribe to the News and Observer at newsobserver.com/subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at Under the Dome and NC Insider, and sign up for our weekly political newsletter, also called Under the Dome, at newsobserver.com/newsletters. Thanks for listening.
Cozy season is ahead, and you'll be spending way more time inside. Is your home ready? Don't worry. With Wayfair, you can upgrade your space without breaking the bank. Score up to 70% off during their Labor Day clearance on furniture, area rugs, mattresses, and more. Plus, surprise flash deals you can't miss. Whether it's one room or the whole house, Wayfair has pieces for every style and budget.
Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.